The laughter stopped before the cameras did. For millions of Americans, The Carol Burnett Show was the place to escape. Every week, Carol Burnett made people laugh with unforgettable characters, clever sketches, and moments so funny that even the cast struggled to keep straight faces. But in 1977, something happened that felt completely different. One episode carried so much real emotion that, years later, Burnett admitted she could not bring herself to watch it again. It wasn't because it failed. It was because it hurt too much. The episode became one of the most talked-about moments of her career. Viewers praised its honesty. Critics admired its emotional power. Yet the woman at the center of it chose to leave it in the past. Why would one of television's greatest performers avoid one of her finest performances? The answer isn't built on scandal or hidden Hollywood secrets. Instead, it is a story about grief, memory, and the strange price that sometimes comes with making great art. Before we continue, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever avoided watching a movie, TV show, or even an old family video because it brought back painful memories? Share your story in the comments. For decades, Carol Burnett became known as America's favorite comedian. Her bright smile made it seem like nothing could shake her. Week after week, she stepped onto the stage with confidence, making audiences forget their worries for an hour. But the people who knew her best understood something the audience could not always see. Behind every joke was a woman whose life had been shaped by heartbreak long before she became famous. Those experiences never truly disappeared. They stayed with her, quietly influencing the way she acted, the stories she chose to tell, and the emotions she carried onto the stage. So when that unforgettable 1977 episode was filmed, it wasn't just another script. Something inside the performance felt deeply real. The cameras captured more than acting. They captured feelings that could not simply be left behind when filming ended. And that is why the story behind this episode is far more powerful than most viewers ever realized. But that wasn't the real beginning of Carol Burnett's story. Long before Carol Burnett became one of the biggest stars on television, her life looked nothing like a Hollywood success story. She was born in Texas during the Great Depression. Money was always short. Her parents struggled with alcoholism, and the family was often separated by hardship. As a child, Burnett eventually moved to Hollywood, not to chase fame, but to live with her grandmother in a tiny apartment. They had very little, but they had each other. Those early years taught her something that stayed with her forever. Sometimes, laughter was the only way to survive. Burnett later spoke openly in interviews about using humor to get through difficult moments. Making people smile became more than a talent. It became a shield against pain. But even with that gift, success did not come easily. She attended college while working odd jobs to support herself. She dreamed of performing on Broadway, yet she couldn't even afford the trip to New York. Then something remarkable happened. A wealthy businessman, impressed by her determination, offered her a loan to help her chase her dream. Burnett accepted the offer, promising she would repay every dollar if she ever made it. She kept that promise. That small act of kindness changed her life. In New York, she slowly built her reputation through stage performances and television appearances. Her warm personality, fearless comedy, and incredible timing caught the attention of producers. Before long, she had become one of the most recognizable faces in entertainment. Then came The Carol Burnett Show. Premiering in 1967, the variety series quickly became a television sensation. Every week, audiences tuned in to watch hilarious sketches, musical performances, and unforgettable characters. Burnett's willingness to laugh at herself made her different from many other stars of the era. One of the show's trademarks was something completely unscripted. She often broke character. Instead of ruining a scene, those genuine moments of laughter became some of the most beloved parts of the program. Cast members like Harvey Korman and Tim Conway frequently made each other laugh so hard they could barely continue filming. Rather than editing those moments out, the producers often left them in because audiences loved seeing the joy feel real. But while viewers saw endless laughter, Burnett carried memories that never completely faded. Family struggles, financial hardship, the fear of losing the people she loved. Those experiences gave her comedy a rare quality. Even in the funniest sketches, there was warmth and humanity. She understood sadness because she had lived through it. That emotional depth would become especially important in 1977. By then, Burnett had spent a decade making America laugh. She had won Emmy Awards, earned enormous respect from her peers, and built one of television's greatest variety shows. No one expected one particular episode to stand apart from all the others. The script looked simple enough at first. But as rehearsals began, the cast realized this wasn't going to be remembered for its jokes alone. The emotions felt different. The atmosphere on set changed. And before the cameras stopped rolling, Carol Burnett would deliver a performance that many fans still consider one of the most moving moments of her remarkable career. If you're enjoying stories that uncover the human side of Hollywood legends, subscribe now, because the biggest emotional twist is still ahead. When the audience arrived that day, they expected what they always expected from the Carol Burnett Show, an hour filled with laughter. The stage looked familiar. The cast was ready. The cameras rolled. But as the performance unfolded, something changed. The comedy was still there, yet beneath every smile was a quiet sadness that could almost be felt through the television screen. It was the kind of performance that reminded everyone watching that the funniest people are not always the happiest. Years later, Burnett would explain in interviews that some scenes became difficult to revisit because they stirred emotions she would rather keep private. She has often spoken about how certain performances can become deeply personal, making it painful to watch them again. While many stories have grown around the famous 1977 episode over the years, there is no credible evidence of a hidden scandal on set. The lasting impact came from the emotional weight of the performance itself rather than behind-the-scenes drama. That honesty is exactly what made the episode unforgettable. Unlike many television comedies of the time, The Carol Burnett Show was never afraid to mix laughter with genuine feeling. Burnett believed audiences could handle both. One moment they could be laughing so hard they were wiping away tears. The next, they could be silent, thinking about their own lives. That balance became one of the show's greatest strengths. But during the filming of this particular episode, the emotions felt especially close to home. Members of the cast were experienced professionals, yet even they sensed the atmosphere was different. The usual jokes between takes became quieter. There was still laughter, but there was also respect for what Burnett was trying to accomplish. She wasn't simply delivering lines. She was drawing from a lifetime of memories. From the struggles of her childhood. From the people she had loved. From the losses that had shaped her long before television audiences knew her name. Great actors often say that the hardest performances are not the loudest ones. They are the moments when real emotion quietly slips into the character. Those scenes cannot be forced. They happen because the performer allows part of themselves to be seen. That appears to be what viewers witnessed in 1977. The audience may not have known the details of Burnett's personal history, but they recognized something authentic. Letters poured in from viewers who said the episode touched them in unexpected ways. Critics praised the show's ability to move beyond comedy without losing its heart. For Burnett, however, the praise came with a cost. Watching the episode meant returning to feelings she had already lived through once. And for someone who had spent so much of her career helping others forget their troubles, that was a journey she did not want to take again. The remarkable thing is that she never tried to erase the episode from history. She never claimed it was a mistake. She never dismissed the audience's love for it. Instead, she simply chose not to revisit it herself. Sometimes the most meaningful work an artist creates is also the most painful to experience again. But the story didn't end when the credits rolled. Decades later, fans were still asking the same question. Why would one of television's greatest stars refuse to watch one of the finest performances of her entire career? The answer says as much about Carol Burnett the person as it does about Carol Burnett the performer. The question followed Carol Burnett for years. Whenever fans looked back at the greatest moments from the Carol Burnett Show, someone would eventually mention that unforgettable 1977 episode. They remembered how different it felt. They remembered the emotion. And many wondered why Burnett herself chose not to watch it again. Her answer, whenever she spoke about emotionally difficult performances, was never dramatic. It was deeply human. Burnett has often explained in interviews that certain memories remain too close to the heart. For many actors, stepping into a role means opening a door to real experiences. Once filming is over, most can close that door and move on. But every now and then, one performance refuses to stay in the past. That appears to have been the case here. There is no verified evidence that the episode was surrounded by backstage conflict, studio pressure, or a hidden scandal. Over the years, internet rumors have added details that simply cannot be confirmed. Some stories claim there were emotional breakdowns behind the scenes. Others suggest there were personal events connected directly to the filming. None of those claims have been supported by reliable sources. The simpler explanation is also the most believable. The emotions were real. And real emotions do not disappear just because the cameras stop rolling. Many performers have described similar experiences. A song, a scene, or even a single line can instantly bring back memories they thought had faded. Viewers see entertainment. The artist remembers exactly where they were, what they were feeling, and what they had to relive to make that moment believable. Burnett was no different. Throughout her career, she earned respect not only because she was funny, but because she was honest. Whether she was performing a broad comedy sketch or a quiet dramatic scene, audiences trusted her. They believed what they saw. That trust became one of her greatest gifts. But it also meant giving a small piece of herself every time she stepped in front of the camera. Years after the Carol Burnett show ended, Burnett continued acting, writing, and speaking with audiences around the world. She received countless honors, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Golden Globe Award, now known as the Carol Burnett Award, created to recognize outstanding achievements in television. Those honors celebrated more than her talent. They celebrated her kindness, her courage, and her ability to connect with ordinary people through extraordinary performances. Yet if you ask many longtime fans what they admire most, they rarely mention awards first. They talk about how she made them feel. Some remember laughing with their families every Saturday night. Others remember watching her sketches during difficult times in their own lives. And many still remember that emotional 1977 episode because it reminded them that even the brightest smile can hide painful memories. Let us ask you something. Have you ever had one moment from your past that you simply couldn't revisit, even though everyone else remembered it as something wonderful? Share your experience in the comments. You never know who might relate to your story. That connection between Burnett and her audience is what made her different from so many television stars. She never pretended life was perfect. She simply showed that laughter could exist alongside sadness. And perhaps that is why one episode became impossible for her to watch. Not because she regretted making it, but because she remembered exactly what it had cost. Still, one final chapter remains. Because the true legacy of that episode isn't found in Carol Burnett's decision to avoid it. It's found in what millions of viewers continue to learn from it nearly 50 years later. Nearly 50 years have passed since that unforgettable episode first aired. Television has changed. Comedy has changed. The way people watch entertainment has changed. But somehow, Carol Burnett's work continues to find new audiences. Young viewers who never saw The Carol Burnett Show during its original run are discovering it through streaming services, classic television channels, and clips shared online. Many arrive expecting simple comedy. They stay because they find something much deeper. They find honesty. That is perhaps the greatest reason Burnett's career has lasted for generations. She never relied only on punchlines. She made people feel seen. Whether she was playing an over-the-top character in a comedy sketch or delivering a quiet, emotional performance, there was always a sense that a real person stood behind the role. That authenticity became her trademark. The famous 1977 episode remains part of that legacy. It is remembered not because of shocking headlines or Hollywood gossip, but because it demonstrated something rare. It showed that laughter and heartbreak can exist in the very same story. One emotion does not cancel out the other. Instead, each makes the other more powerful. That lesson extends far beyond television. Think about the people in your own life. How often have you met someone who always smiles, always jokes, and always seems to brighten every room? We naturally assume they have fewer worries than everyone else. But life is rarely that simple. Many people use humor not to hide who they are, but to help themselves, and others, carry life's hardest moments. Carol Burnett has spoken throughout her career about the healing power of laughter. She has never claimed comedy erases pain. Instead, she has suggested that it helps people face pain together. Perhaps that is why audiences have remained loyal to her for decades. Not because she convinced them life was easy, Because she reminded them that difficult days do not have to be faced alone. When viewers look back at that emotional episode today, they often see more than a television performance. They see a woman who gave everything she had to her audience, even when it required touching memories she preferred to leave behind. If Burnett truly chooses never to watch that episode again, that decision deserves respect. Artists are not obligated to relive every chapter of their lives simply because the public loves the result. Some creations become meaningful precisely because they came from places that are deeply personal. Ironically, the very episode she avoids may have become one of the clearest examples of why audiences admire her so much. It revealed courage without ever announcing itself. It revealed vulnerability without asking for sympathy. And it reminded millions that behind one of television's brightest smiles was a woman who understood heartbreak just as deeply as she understood laughter. That is a legacy no award can fully measure. Long after the applause faded and the studio lights dimmed, Carol Burnett left behind something far more valuable than a collection of comedy sketches. She left behind proof that kindness, resilience, and authenticity never go out of style. And maybe that's the real reason this story continues to captivate people today. Not because one episode was difficult to watch, but because it reminds us that every laugh we hear may have a story behind it that we never knew. If this story made you see Carol Burnett in a new way, let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy documentaries that uncover the human stories behind Hollywood legends, make sure you don't miss our next one, because some of the most unforgettable chapters in entertainment history are still waiting to be told.